lengthy intro there. Welcome to the day after, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Joe Cook, got James Hayden, got Coach Dub. Going to talk a lot about what was I don't know if it was a good game, definitely an exciting game, a loss for the Longhorns to Ohio State, 28-14. Definitely a game a lot closer than the two possession scoring spread indicated. But at the same time, it came down to two plays. That seems to be the topic of conversation everybody wants to touch on. And I see there are a couple sides to the argument, Coach. It's either, hey, that Ohio State team has been really good at fourth down stops all year. Very true. But at the same time, it's football, man. You got to You got to go out on your shield and see if your guys can get it. And I think that's what everybody believes probably should have happened. And as we add Justin Wells, he's also was there to see the game. We were just saying, and Coach, I'm throwing it to you on this one. We kind of think that Sark should have tried to die on the shield, and if you don't make it trying to run right at him, then there's no dishonor in that.
Yeah, look, I was curious to see how many times the toss worked in practice. Honestly, they probably felt favorable about the matchups, trying to run outside maybe. But once the safety kind of followed, you kind of knew it was man, and then you didn't have a numbers advantage anymore. And so when it was too late at that point, you couldn't call a timeout. What do you do? You went ahead and ran the play, and Rantham just beat Banks to the spot puller. I mean, he's a faster athlete. He beat him to the spot. Caleb Downs shot underneath and made a terrific play to slow down Wisner. So, they have dudes, and those dudes just end up making plays, right? And so if they would have got a touchdown, they would have said it was a great call. But unfortunately, it didn't go that way. You would like to see them kind of run at Ohio State maybe a little more, but at least try it more than once. Don't give up on it after one play, right? Because what message does it send to your team? Okay, hey, we couldn't get there. All right, scrap it. So I don't know. I would have ran at him again just to see what maybe Bo Gibson one more time. Or I'd like to see the play they ran last year with TreAndre Sweat to the flats, or they run before. I don't know who the guy would have been, but fake the dive and throw out there. So I don't know. It was tough. It was a tough call. It didn't work, and so these are the results.
I think one thing that's always going to track with me, that was a weird defensive formation too. It was like a 5-1-5 with Caleb Downs playing linebacker.
Yeah.
And, you give some credit to Caleb Downs, one of the best football players in the country making a football play. But you're inviting James, when you do something like that, you're inviting him the opportunity to use his athleticism. He's a stout guy, 200-plus pounds, but then you're inviting him to run downhill, especially to a side of the field where Texas was honestly outnumbered, and it just worked out, obviously, the way it did.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that in the days leading up to the game, that we thought Downs would come down and run coverage, and he did it when it mattered most in that play. And I believe we called that to the short side too, right? Of the
that was the wide side.
That was the wide side. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where they are the number one red zone defense in the country. I talked about that a little bit on my show on Tuesday night leading up to the game, and Texas was 110th or something like that in touchdown percentage in the red zone. And that was one of those things where, unfortunately, the script stuck to what it was, and Texas did not, flip it on its head. And it was just Ohio State having dudes. They've got great players up front. JTT was wrecking havoc. Jack Sawyer was wrecking havoc. I mean, those guys were just – Ohio State's got dudes. We saw that picture going viral of the five-star comparison between Texas and Ohio State. And Ohio State's got 14 5-stars, and I mean, that's just it seems like, someone like Caleb Downs is rated as high as he is praised as much as he is because of plays like that, like just coming down. Ransom also coming down too. It's just those safeties play great, and Downs would honestly work as a great outside linebacker if he wanted to be. I mean, that kid could play anywhere on a defense. It was an unfortunate situation where we tried to get a little smart on Ohio State, and they just have the athletes to beat you to the spot.
Coach, I think you may remember this. When for Saban, the gold standard of behind the scenes chatter for players with him is always Minkah Fitzpatrick. That was always somebody that even Saban would gush about as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing the same thing for him with Caleb Downs. Obviously, he transfers out. and now is making plays at Ohio State. So good for him. Good for Jim Knowles.
Wasn't that a little bit of payback for Caleb Downs? Didn't Quinn kind of torch him a little bit when he was in Bama 2 years ago?
Xavier Worthy had a good play on him.
Mitchell, they beat Mitchell at the goal line. Mitchell got leverage on him, and honestly, I don't even think that was his man. I think he was just a safety that crept up, and Quinn got him just to turn one angle, and then boom, it was there in a second. There was a lot of that in this game, a lot of old rivalries, a lot of guys that knew each other from other spots, from other games. That's one of the things that made it, the underlying stories that made it some interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of for the rest of the game, Justin, we can focus so much on that four-play sequence.
Yeah.
But it also kind of seemed like it was a microcosm of the whole game. Like James was saying, Ohio State has dudes too, and those dudes were playing. Texas had some opportunity, but some of the their limitations were on display during that game.
Yeah, it's we've had a little bit of time to decompress now and kind of think about the game a little bit more. When I got back home this morning, I watched it. It was actually on TV. It was on my TV when I walked in. I couldn't get away from it. It was on the television. I think Rubble was watching it. But it's funny. That's probably the national championship guys. I was talking to a Notre Dame buddy today who's in the industry and works in media. Joe knows him really well. And he said, and he made a really good point. He said, I said, man, I hope Notre Dame takes it to him, man. I hope it gets him. He goes, that's not going to happen. What are you talking about? I said, man, Notre Dame's playing great. He said, dude, Ohio State's a machine. And you know what it is? I think we're going to see a lot of the same teams in this Final Four part of the playoff moving forward because they're on game 17, fellas. Mm-hmm. That's an NFL schedule. Texas just played an NFL season. It's going to come down to depth. I didn't realize Notre Dame was missing so many players.
Yeah, their O-line got depleted.
Two or three guys in their offensive line. So I think what we're going to see in the future is, you do your best during the regular season, but the team that's got the most depth, it's not necessarily the superstars. It's the guys with the most solid depth, which I felt like Texas had in spades all season long. I think that's what there was a mirroring a lot with Ohio State. I thought there was a lot of similarities from both programs. I really did. And I think Jim Knowles deserves a lot of credit. I think that guy was ready. I think those guys were pumped. I can't get past the fact that Texas just kept fighting. They were told they weren't going to win this game. They were told they were going to get blown out. They were told they had no chance. And after the first drive, everybody doubled down and tripled down on that because of that factor. But what happened? It was a battle. It was a fight. And these two teams mirrored each other. I'm telling you what, it's funny that they're going to play each other again next year. Like I feel like – and what's cool about that is there's going to be some overlap. If you don't think some of those younger Texas guys, like an Anthony Hill and Manny Muhammad and Michael Taft, if you don't think they want to go to Columbus and absolutely obliterate that team, think again, dude. Sark has instilled a mental toughness, I felt like, in the program, something they lacked for a long time. And so you got beat by a better I thought Ohio State played the better game. I don't necessarily know if they were the better team per se. They played the better game. And in that moment, at that time, that's the most important thing. It was a great game. The more we get away from it, I think the more we're going to enjoy it. The more we'll talk about it and dive into it, and especially on this channel and at InsideTexas.com. Come see us. But, this was the de facto national championship in my mind. And people are going to gripe about that toss play for a long time. It wasn't because it was a toss play on the goal line. It was because of when it happened and where it happened and in the moment it happened. Bad play calls get made all the time, but in the moment, at that time where they were at, down a touchdown, about to tie it up with 4 minutes left, that's what made it so much worse when it didn't work.
Right. So this is a good point from our guy Helio Castillo. You look at that Ohio State roster. Like, I know their left tackle got hurt. I forget his name. They brought him back. He was supposed to be an early round pick. Donovan Jackson, who ended up playing left tackle, early round pick. I bet Seth McLaughlin could have gone to the draft. He ends up hurt, doesn't play early round. Ennis, Egbuka, and then Sawyer, JTT. Like all these guys, that is why Ohio State has always kind of been I think there have been 3 national title favorites all year: Georgia, Texas, Ohio State. But Ohio State, for the longest time, was the most complete and seemed like the one because of all that talent they had at the top and then the depth. And that's a huge difference. If they didn't have guys like Egbuka and Tate and adding Jeremiah Smith and Downs with them, like this is a different team.
Definitely.
This team would have still been really good this year and probably in this same position without Jeremiah Smith. That's what's scary. Jeremiah Smith was like the cherry on the top.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, the dude, we got to see him first and foremost, and I thought Barron did a great job, but that was a team effort against Jeremiah.
We'll get into the defense a little bit more in a little bit, but this has been, I think, the most – this is the game that makes this a topic of conversation more than ever, and it is the play calling aspect. And I'm very on one side of this argument at this juncture, and I can see why Texas fans maybe after viewing Ryan Day, who gave up play calling for Chip Kelly and lost that game to him, may want it to change. James, I'm curious where you're falling maybe on this side of on which side you are falling on this argument.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more of a guy who thinks that he should eventually work towards delegating those to someone else, as we saw Ryan Day do. And I think we see a lot of coaches, end up coming around on is that you can't really do it all at this point. And he's kind of like a GM. He's recruiting, he's managing, he's a CEO. When you're doing that, I think sometimes it gets harder to be in that like day-by-day situation, like seeing the plays the same way he saw it when he was just a coordinator. I think that's why sometimes these really great offensive minds like Kiffin and Sark can just sort of get in their own way. Because I think when he's on, you get these great drives. His first scripted drive of games that everybody talks about. When he cooks up a great game plan, it looks great. As on the road to Bryant-Denny, that first drive against A&M, the first drive against Ohio State, frankly, was great. But I just think some of those plays. But everybody makes bad play calls. I just think that the offense this year was lackluster with all the talent we kind of expected. The fact that they only scored 1 touchdown in the third quarter in the last 7 games. It's just, I think, sort of maybe something needs to be shifted up. And we can – I'm maybe not at this point yet, but if maybe next year it's like, all right, the offense struggle again, the red zone's 120th again, that then you could seriously talk about it because Sark is obviously he's an expert at this. He wouldn't have been Saban's OC. He wouldn't have been an NFL OC. The guy runs a great pro-style offense, which sometimes maybe people don't understand is a little more sophisticated than the simpler old like beer and shoot offenses of an old Art Briles team or Tennessee now. But he's he does a lot into scheming guys open, and that's why I think those first drives sometimes look so poetic and perfect. But unfortunately, there's just a few hiccups here and there, and I do wonder if at some point if he brought in a guy. Like a Jake Spavital at Baylor or someone like that, just one of those more just offense-only guys, if that could maybe take this team to another level and let Sark just worry about the managing, worry about the recruiting, being more of a boss man. But
Coach, what do you think?
I feel like it depends on who he plays against, right? Play calling is a feeling. If you feel like you got a leg up or you're a step ahead of the team over that you're going against, he can call plays. You can see when he's in rhythm. But it's when you stop. It's when you stop him. When you stop him a few times, it's like, okay, where do I go? I was paying attention to the game last night when they were on defense. He was so doubted on defense. I doubt he's really listening to the adjustments they got to make next drive, right? Where Chip Kelly gets to take a break. Okay, this is how they're playing us. We need to adjust. We need to do this. He just doesn't have that break, especially in the red zone. You're like, oh, what should I do? You start second guessing yourself. You try to think back through the week of what you worked on. But like you cannot think on the fly sometimes, especially in a high tight pressure situation like that, versus a regular offensive coordinator. You got somebody buzzing your ear like, "Hey, coach, hey, they're lining up like this." Then you can communicate that to the quarterback, where he has to do it all and manage the game. It's a lot. So does he need help? I would say, yeah, he could use help, right? Just listen to that person. They don't have to call him an OC. Call him an advisor. Call him something else. Don't have to take away play calling duty completely. But have that person tied to your hip for certain situations, like in the red zone or, just for counter. Like, hey, coach, this is somebody has to be somebody he trusts to make him go, okay, I'll actually listen. Because most head coaches, most coaches, you got a little bit of ego. I can call plays. I can do this. I've been great at it. I don't need help. Sometimes you need help, and so I think he can really benefit from having somebody in his ear that he actually listens to.
Justin, what do you think on this one?
I was kind of waiting on your answer.
So I think James had a very good point right now, because we had gone through all this season with the third quarter struggles that James had mentioned, and you thought it's just got to be better. But I never really saw people clamor for a solution. It's like, get a new play caller. It's like, oh, get a red zone play caller. That is not practical. You can't do that. But like it didn't seem like this whole he needs a new play caller, damn it, thing happened until he made 4 bad play calls. And any play caller makes bad play calls. Like it's part of the thing. It's part of what work. It is part of the job. And I haven't seen any sign yet, aside from one, unless you want to say that losing to national finalists is a sign that he can't do both. Are there problems? Like, Coach, you did mention, like, what he does a good job of is being engaged as a head coach when the defense is on the field. And, we can watch him, we can see him. I remember even asking him about this, like, how involved do you get? It's like, I click over. So what that means to me is Kyle Flood's working with the O-line and the offense, and all those other coaches are doing that. And maybe he's delegating the adjustments. We don't get to know what's being said. But at the same time, like, I haven't seen any signs except for losing to top 2 programs in the country that is just way above his head on this one. And the other thing that caused Ryan Day to do it was a lot of pressure, and it's not like Sark's not under pressure. But Ryan Day lost 3 in a row to Michigan, lost 4 in a row to Michigan, even with Chip Kelly. And until he went on this run, they wanted to bring him out of town. So, and to this point, JW Crunch said it's not like Chip Kelly called a hell of a game. So I feel like if we see signs that, like, things are really cracking, like, the offense sucks now. Like, yes, do they have third quarter problems? Of course. Teams have problems. Teams have flaws. But, like, until we see, like, everything deteriorating, I don't have S&P Plus pulled up right now, but they've been top 10 in SP Plus all year, and that's not just a yards thing. So I don't think it's a thing where, you have to make this call. And it's like, how many big game losses? These games have to have winners and losers. Like, it just is what it is. I haven't seen anything yet that makes me say, okay, he's got to go as a play caller. I can say, and as our guy Lando said, did he even have 4 really bad play calls? Yeah. But that's life as a play caller. That doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's my opinion.
2 points. Right. I got 2 points. One, if you do hire a new OC, who are you going to hire?
Yeah. Like, who is from
who are you going to hire that's not going to run their own system? You're not going to get a good one. You're going to get a below average one. And Texas fans don't want below average coaches on the staff. Sark won't allow it. Sark won't bring those guys on board. Why hire a below average person? Because anybody above average is going to run their stuff because they're an offensive coordinator and that's their philosophy. The same way Sark is adamant that it's his offense and his philosophy. That's part of it. 2, we're so reactionary. And it's not Texas, just Texas fans. It's sports fans in general. After a loss, it's always, what could we have done better? That's the first thing everyone, we could have done this better. Well, you could have done that better. And I think they've attached themselves to this thing about Sark and play calling right now because they're creatures of the moment. Like, you also have to think about this. We can say, he made 4 or 5 bad play calls. How many had one guy out of 11 screw up and it messed up everything else for the other 10? And if that one weak link does his job, that play actually clicks and works, and all of a sudden we're not having this conversation. It's so tertiary at this point to really go to needle each one of those. And so I think, one, you'd have to hire an OC that's a puppet. And we saw that. That does not work. Mac Brown tried that. He had the best OC in the history of the world. And he got forced out towards the end of it. Greg Davis, Mountain you. Don't forget. He had to do that. He brought in guys, and they were like, Brian Harson's like, wait a minute, this isn't my offense. Brought in another guy, wait a minute, this isn't my offense. You're not going to get a good OC by doing that. And don't be so reactionary that in the moment that Texas gets so close, Lando just put it there for us, blasted it. Hey, one yard away from a potential national championship berth. Your first reaction is going to be change the guy that got you here, change the way he calls plays. I will say this. James had a good point. With the defense being so good this year, you felt like there was some missed opportunities. Like, that's a national championship defense, period. No matter how we shake it for the rest of our lives. And if you were to go back, hindsight's 2020. Well, I wish they would have run this or wish they would have ran that. It's so reactionary at this moment. Just understand the reason Sark is the coach at Texas is his play calling. Yeah. Why change that now just because you lost in a big game against a really good team that was probably a little bit more man than you were at that moment? I'm with Joe. This is a new thing, and I'm just not buying that dog right now. I don't think he hunts.
We'll keep on going. Before we do, got to show some love to our sponsor. That is Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Fun, memories, friendship. We're here for all of it. Here for the big moments and the small ones too. We're here for unforgettable triumph, momentary misfortune, and the impromptu throwdown. We're out here each day, chasing something great. Call it adventure, call it play, we call it fun. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
Thank you to Academy. Let's go ahead and shift our focus to the defense. Fantastic game, Justin. You touched on it. Jeremiah Smith was not the guy that hurt them.
We talked about the wrong freshman all week long.
Yeah, Colin Simmons had a fantastic game. Heck, Vernon Broughton had a.
Let me say this real quick, Joe. I don't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. I want to say this real quick. Barron Sorrell had the best quote, and I didn't put it in the story last night, but we're going to use it. We asked him his impression of Colin Simmons his freshman year. This was one of the best answers I've heard, period, all season long. I said, man, he's a monster. He's a freak. He's an athlete. He's tenacious. He's all of this. You know what Barron said? He listens. When I tell him to do something, he listens. Mm-hmm. When the coach tells him to do something, he listens. And you know what? He doesn't do it. He doesn't make the same mistake twice. That, to me, is paramount to the future of this Texas team and the defense next year. Anthony Hill could not stop talking about, we have a standard here now. We don't let teams score. That's not going to change. We're back next year. We got more of our dudes back. It's going to be more of the same because that's our standard now. Keep going, Joe. I just love that quote from Barron on Colin. I just thought it was profound.
Yeah, it's future's bright with him. But James, I think like there was one place to look on offense. There's another place to look on defense. And, you know, Ohio State, they're going to go on drives. They're a talented team. But you really hope that one of those drives is not a one-play, 75-yard screen play right before halftime.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's honestly comparable to what we're talking about with Sark. Are you going to start questioning PK and say, take PK off defensive play calling because of one bad play, right?
Yes.
I mean, so it's basically, I found myself caught in that thinking, like, you get mad, not PK, not on PK, but I was like, yeah, I should probably give the same grace to Sark. I get because, you know, PK, we think of this defense is just an absolute behemoth this year, has been awesome. I mean, it's probably the best Texas defense we've seen in 15 years. Yes. But one play, that's what people are going to talk about is that one corner blitz. I mean, I play enough CFB 25 to know you don't corner blitz on the HB screen. And it got them, but really it was just guys out of place too. Just, you know, that should have been a big gain. Unfortunately, it turned into a touchdown. And I put out a thing when I put out my reaction video, just a quick little clip on the Instagram, which, by the way, if you don't already, follow Inside Texas on Instagram. But I put out the thing and said I think Texas should have won, and people were like, "What do you know?" It got engagement, got people mad, obviously, and I'm like, "Yeah, it was 2 plays. In my opinion, it's 2 plays that really it seemed like Texas had turned the tide in the third quarter, and that's after they gave up that cruddy TD. So the defense was great. How awesome is it that I wish they had won because the memes would have been great of Jeremiah Smith last week saying no one can cover me and then getting 3 yards. But that was awesome to see that defense bow up for the most part. I mean, Ohio State had a couple good drives, but Texas's secondary, like we knew, they didn't allow anything over the top. And in general, they played a pretty solid game. It was great to see Vernon Broughton. They were getting after Will Howard come the second half. I mean, Broughton, Simmons, that was fun. That's when I really thought they were going to win. But hey, a defense that bowed up, they were ready for the challenge. And that was really impressive considering that Ohio State just skull drug Oregon. That was not a problem for Texas's defense at all. So aside from a couple plays, as we're saying, just a couple plays, the defense was solid. They stood on business. It's sad to see a lot of those Terrell guys, Broughton, Nade, those guys are warriors. That was great. Great to watch their last performance, though. Good job by the defense.
Clay, we'll get to this in a little bit just because we started a conversation on the defense, but we will get to that one. But, Coach, I wanted – everybody thinks it was a blitz, and it was – they sent Jalen Gilbo – sorry, James, but it's a little different. It's a little different.
We thought it was too. It was too, and Joe dug it up, did the research, did the work, found out it wasn't.
But, Coach, I'll let you
listen to these guys instead of me.
Coach, I'll let you explain kind of what happened and why. Even though, yes, Jalen Gilbo did get sent, it's technically not a blitz.
Yeah, definitely. Just simulated pressure. He was the 4th guy, sitting 7 yards back, right? Almost like a delay blitz. He came. You would wish that he would recognize screen because he ran right by the running back, but he didn't pick it up. He chased the quarterback. And you're even taught, like, don't chase the quarterback. It's simulated pressure. So you're the 4th guy. You're added on rusher pretty much. Hey, like red flag, alert, lineman coming at you. It means it's probably not, a pass where he's not running for his life. Like, stop. Pay attention to what's going on. But I think the game just maybe got a little too fast. He wasn't paying attention to the situation. It should have been thinking draw or screen in my head. If I'm a defense player, that's what I'm thinking anyway. But he ran by the running back, and so that's what happened. It wasn't a blitz. It was a simulated pressure. Gilbo just did not see the running back. He continued to chase the quarterback, and he dumped it right over his head. And, Henderson did the rest.
Let's not forget Henderson's fast.
He is fast.
He's not small.
That dude was RB1, I think, in his class, and
you can make that mistake against a poor team.
Yes,
be just fine. You can't make that mistake against a really good team in a college football semifinal going to a national championship.
And I said, if the roles were reversed, if that was Barron who was on the simulated pressure, he would have stopped and made the play on the running back. He would have saw it. It's just a difference in player. I'm not saying that Gilbo has a low IQ. It's just that Barron probably would have saw it and recognized.
Outside of that play, Coach.
He did play well. He did play well. I'm just saying that, yeah.
And Justin, another thing that you can't tell until very late, and I'm not sure what ESPN showed on the replay, but the dudes were getting blocked. That's definitely part of what happened with that. And if you're a simulated pressure sends 4 means 7's in coverage, and I think probably Ohio State had a numbers advantage. But still, dudes were getting blocked, and that's why that hole opened up.
It was ran well. It was executed well. For what Texas did, it was almost the perfect play call, even though it wasn't meant to be the perfect play call, which kind of goes back to our play call discussion. Sometimes it's just what happens in the moment. I don't think Will Howard even mentioned they didn't call that play to score an 83-yard or whatever, 75-yard touchdown pass. They did it to get a little bit of chunk yards to potentially get a chance to the end zone or maybe a long field goal. That play call wasn't even supposed to happen in the way it did. When Gilbo ran by and we saw those 3 offensive linemen for Ohio State running out front, I remember looking at Joe and just thinking, oh, boy, because you could just see all that grass. Now, and I think we talked to Anthony Hill about it. I think Anthony had mentioned when he saw what was going on, they're like, oh, God. And they tried to push him back inside. And by doing that, every guy got blocked. Mm-hmm. And so it was just one of those things where it wasn't the perfect play call. But for that moment, it was exactly the perfect play call, only because Gilbo made a mistake. They called the right defense. But again, if one guy messes up your defensive call. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad.
Yeah.
It's going to fail. And that's kind of what happened there. Ohio State ran that thing just right.
Got to give them a lot of credit. And then, one of the really great things about that second half was that they could have doubled up in the middle 8.
Yeah.
And Texas made a big stand in that first possession for Ohio State.
Wasn't it Benda's interception?
It was.
Yeah. Yeah. So
and Wisner just takes over in the third. The third quarter was owned and operated by Trey Wisner.
Yes.
Exactly. So and David Benda, been one of my favorite players to cover. Just always great to always gives good answers. Been there forever. I showed him a picture of him at his Under Armour high school jersey ceremony. He's like, how do you have that?
That's a 5-star human.
Yeah, and that's someone who I hope he gets an opportunity in the NFL. I know it's
get a cup of coffee.
Super likely, but that's someone who's going to give everything to.
You know who else was really happy for David Benda? Jeff Choate.
As he should be. That's one of his guys.
Right. That's his guy.
James, you kind of hinted at it, but what do you think the legacy of this defense is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think this defense, I hope it's not forgotten just because they didn't, go all the way. But I think this defense will be remembered for sure because of Jade winning the Thorpe. And just the amount of guys that we're going to see playing on Sundays in the next few years from this group, where you're going to go, oh, Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, Jade, maybe even Taft. We're all in the same.
Broughton.
Yeah, Broughton, Alfred Collins, who both played themselves into a lot of money this year.
Yes.
You're going to be looking back on this team and go, man, they had all those guys on that same team. And, and a lot of them are back next year, like we were talking about with Simmons and Hill. And, they're going to be motivated to be – yeah, exactly. Clinton has been saying mostly negative things today, but he admits the defense is elite. The defense stood up whenever they were needed. It didn't matter what position. Look back to that October 18th game against Georgia. They were given the crappiest deck of cards in that game with turnovers, and they stood up and they gave Georgia one touchdown drive. The rest of them were 10 yards. The first one was a 12-yard drive. The next one, 30-yard field goal. I mean, it just felt like, if going back to CFP 25, I've been playing a lot recently. It's just like a 99 overall defense. In my opinion. This defense, so good. It was awesome to watch because I love old school football and just it was really good to see Texas have that team. It's not just filled with athletes, but executes. As coach was talking about, Jade probably would have made that play. Jade, Michael, those guys are just very cerebral. They're aware of everything. These guys are watching tape till the sun comes up. It's just been a good culture shift and it's symbolic of the greater transition for Texas and how Sark and PK and just an elevation of the program back to what fans remember from the glory days. So it was an awesome year.
And that Georgia game, don't forget, that Georgia game is what twisted the narrative, twisted everything inside that locker room from an offensive-minded team to a defensive-led team. Once that happened, that defense got so stinking confident every week. When they were making stop after stop on these goal lines, on these fourth downs, all that was doing was building up collateral confidence within that group. Once they knew, the Texas team basically knew, okay, the defense is the leader this year. Offense is going to do just enough. Defense is the leader. That's when I think that switch clicked for that group. And it took that Georgia butt kicking in Austin for that to happen.
Before we keep going, one more quick word from our friends at Academy. There it is. Academy, obviously, if you are from Texas, if you're from anywhere, because they are all over the nation now, you got to head to Academy Sports and Outdoors. Top brands at prices you will love. I know we've had the conversation about do you go left, do you go right, but now's a good time to, if you really find something that you think you might need. Maybe it's a good time to send something out to LA because there are a lot of people who lost a lot out there. So maybe that's a good reason to go to Academy as well. If you still got your New Year's resolutions going, good for you. You can go get all the equipment and all the apparel you need for that. And, at this point in the year, I think, if you are a fan of a certain NFL team who is currently up, I
Go
think
Texans.
the Chargers.
The Texans took the lead.
Go Texans.
You may be able to get some NFL playoff gear there as well, depending on where you're at. So go to Academy Sports and Outdoors. You can find all that. You can find basically everything you're looking for. Big League Chew, as we like to talk about. And obviously they've been helping us out on Instagram as well. James, they can help you out in the store too if you do a couple things.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Joe, you know what my New Year's resolution was this year?
New shoes.
Buy more Big League Chew. I'm a grape guy myself, and you can be too, folks. Go over to the Inside Texas Instagram. We've got it pinned. It's a giveaway we're doing, right? All you have to do, walk into your local academy. There's one within 10 miles of everybody, I'm pretty sure. Walk in, throw your horns up, tag Inside Texas, tag Academy, put it on your story, and just do the hashtag Inside Academy. Pretty soon here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be picking 5 winners. We're giving away $50 gift cards. So just head over to our Instagram, read the first post that we have pinned, and you'll have a good chance of winning a $50 gift card. So you can go get yourself Big League Chew, maybe some new cleats. Little League season's coming. They have everything under the sun. I mean, Academy is a jungle gym for kids and a glorious place to shop for adults. So thank you to Academy.
I could waste hours in heaven there. Because Clay Davis wanted to get to that super chat. And I think we can answer this question, but we can also kind of look at what we're excited about with the future and what might look different. So Justin, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
How do you answer this question?
No, he just doesn't. He doesn't. I'm sorry. And I love Arch Manning. It's noted. I've got to see that kid for years now. I'm a big fan. I think he's going to be awesome in Austin. I really do. If Arch is the starter, do they win? No, they don't. That was a really good team. A lot of those guys on that other side of the field are going to the NFL. So it was a good test for this Texas team. A freshman coming in there, or essentially a redshirt freshman, I guess, going in there. If Arch is the starter all year, that's a different answer, potentially. But he wasn't. You don't bring him in like that. Would you like to see him used a little bit more? Probably. You lost two of your best tailbacks in the offseason, so you needed somebody to get close yardage, short yardage, goal line yardage, things like that. But Arch being the starter does not change the outcome of the game. If anything, it probably is worse.
The idea of Arch Manning is way better than Arch Manning the player.
Thank you. And Arch is going to be great.
Someday it could get even.
This offense is going to be different next year. Yeah. Just understand, you need to listen to Ian Boyd. This offense is going to be different next year, and Arch is a machine when it comes. Sark is going to be what the kids call in their bag whenever Arch is out there, because the playbook's going to open up a little bit more. You're going to get more progressions. Arch has been doing this since birth. He came out the womb making audibles, okay? And so this is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see Arch in Columbus. I cannot wait. We got 8.5 months to talk about it. But Joe nailed it. The idea of Arch Manning is so much better than Arch Manning today.
Yeah.
And also, like, at a certain juncture, that idea is still, I think, what a lot of people are carrying on. What did we see against Georgia? Wasn't great. It's actually pretty bad. We haven't seen him drop back and pass. And if you're going to win these games, you got to drop back and pass. And I don't know he dropped back against Arizona State, right? But he didn't actually pass the ball.
Yeah, he hasn't thrown a pass in 2 months.
Yeah, so if we're going to have a guy who hadn't thrown more than 5 passes.
And you were missing big receivers. Bond hasn't been healthy in weeks.
Yeah.
Matthew Golden was out for over half the game. You don't do that to a young quarterback with no experience against that team. I think they would have teed off. Quinn made some really good throws. Now, granted, some of those drives were checkdowns. Great. Take what they give you. That's what Mike Leach taught you. Nickel and dime them if you have to. But Quinn made some really good throws. That one that Matthew Golden caught with one hand, that was a win-win. That was a great throw and a great catch. Ryan Wingo had one. DeAndre Moore had one. Gunnar Helm had one. He made some great throws. I don't know if Arch does that just yet. Give it time. He is going to be so much fun to watch for the next 2 years and for us to talk about for the next 2 years. We are going to lap it up. It's going to be Arch Mania, Arch Madness. Just prepare.
I'm ready for Arch.
I was going to say, if anybody's ready to take advantage of the Arch Manning frenzy, it's going to be James Ford.
Arch Manning, Michael Taft, every other day, switch up.
Oh, buddy.
The
I'll drink it in.
Through the roof.
Feel me to the top of the cup.
Justin, I'm glad you said something about check downs. Arch ain't taking a check down. Check
No!
Go back to the UL Monroe game.
So he wasn't taking those check downs. And I thought Quinn doing that was like perfect. Like that's the play nobody ever talks about. The check downs are always there.
One of the other things, and I think I've mentioned this before, a lot of people want to make the Hurts Tua comparisons. If I remember right, they were splitting reps like first team reps in practice.
Mid-season.
And that is not what happened at Texas. Like he took first string reps when Quinn was out.
Yeah.
And then when Quinn came back, Quinn got those first string reps and maintained all of them throughout the rest of the year. So if you really, really wanted to see Arch Manning in there, you would have been asking the guy who'd been taking backup quarterback reps for all of the basically second half of the season to go in there against the number 1A, 1B defense in the country and say, please win the biggest game since
it's like saying, would Arch Manning be able to go into the playoffs into NRG today and beat the Texans?
Yes.
No.
You read Instagram comments? Yes.
Well, we know that's where the smartest people of football minds hang out. So
I think it starts at Facebook
Those are my people.
and Instagram comments.
Man.
Our YouTube viewers that are our favorites, they bring the best. They're the best. Keep it coming.
They bring it in a lot of different directions, and I think it's like you get a good sample size of basically every thought on UT football, and it's all thrown at you, and it's sometimes hard to absorb, but you'll get
thrown at you.
the most positive, the worst, like all different things. That's what makes YouTube really impressive. It's going to be a lot of fun covering that team.
JF has a good one. That's a good one.
I'm honestly excited. I'm going to be really excited. This is an odd thing to say, knowing there's going to be a few losses. I'm excited to see what this offensive line looks like, because I think we have a good idea of what some of the pieces are going to be. And even if they bring in one more extra guy, we kind of know
Joe,
what's going to be going on.
They might be better. They might be better.
14 points. It's a low bar for Arch to clear. What happens if they score 9?
Yeah.
Like, you're
Then
going
9
against
points would be the bar.
Ohio. Like I said, Ohio State was the 1A to Texas 1B, or Texas was 1B to Ohio State's 1A. And you're asking a freshman who, like, literally, I said, it's the idea of Arch Manning.
Yeah, and it's number 1. Oregon was down 34-0 to start that game. So
Dylan Gabriel, who leads college football all time in passing.
And that's Jim Knowles. If you remember the last time Mike Gundy had a serious competitor, that 12-2 Oklahoma State team. Now give him Ohio State athletes.
He is that guy. Yeah.
Give him Ohio State athletes. Give him Caleb Downs, who would start anywhere in the country and twice on Sunday. I mean, I just think the Arch narrative, and what we're saying is, I saw someone say in the comment, we're admitting that Arch would have been better. I think what people's points are is we think
Nobody
Arch,
said that.
Yeah, we're saying his ceiling would be better. We think that with the mobility, the size, the fact that he comes from that family,
his mindset.
Yes, like different. It's just people think that the ceiling is higher, but back to what we've been harping on is he hasn't thrown a pass since November 9th in garbage time. So, and we saw that Georgia game where he just looked kind of nervous when he's getting those reps with the ones. He goes through spring ball as a 1. He's playing in the spring game as a 1. That's a different Arch Manning. But so when the people say, like, Monday morning quarterback and go, oh, you should have thrown Arch, when Quinn had a solid game, Quinn led a clutch drive at the end that didn't unfortunately result in a good ending for Texas. But, he was hitting those checkdowns, and a lot of times people were praising him when they were 6-0 for hitting those checkdowns and making the smart reads. And now, now they don't like it when they've got a certain narrative on Quinn. But I just think Arch isn't ready. It's champagne problems for Texas. The future is bright for Arch. It will be great to see him when he, knows how to take checkdowns and also throws those bombs.
And we can have this conversation when Arch gets to the point where he has 9,000 passing yards and almost 80 total touchdowns in college.
Yeah.
Because Quinn Ewers does.
Like it's going to say for the longest time. Like I don't know the records in order, but like Quinn's is going to be up there. So
number 3.
He's four. I think he's tied for 4th all time in wins.
3 in yards, 3 in TDs, 4th in wins. If he had won it all, he would have gotten to 3rd in wins, I believe.
Quinn Ewers accomplished every single thing you could possibly hope to imagine as a Texas Longhorn quarterback, except for a national championship. Buddy, that's the good stuff. Soak it up and enjoy that kid. When he goes off to the greener pastures of the NFL, we're going to miss him. But my goodness, Arch Manning is going to bring a different bag.
Yeah.
I think that'll be good. 45 minutes of great conversation. We had a great season doing this show the day after. Mostly highs, some lows, but and obviously it ends at the end. But a lot of fun doing this with y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Thank you, Academy. This one, I bet that it's going to be later than typical, just because the season went a little bit later than normal. So we'll see what happens. They basically got to have it done by whatever the last weekend.
You know what, Joe? I'm going to tell you right now, let's go with April 19th.
Okay.
The day before Easter. So
Good Friday?
Yeah. So it would
Saturday.
It would be Saturday. It'd be that Saturday. So it's either that or it'll be, I would think, the week. Well, actually, I think they got an extended week because of the playoff run, or 2 weeks, whatever. So it may be pushed back to like the 26th. But think about it in that mid to late April range. If you're trying to plan with your family to come to Austin, to come to the spring game, I promise you, it's going to be a lot of fun. This year's spring game is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be there. It'll be a party. Coach Williams will be there. I'll make sure. He's the party master. We'll do it, but it could be April 19th. That's going to be my guess. Day after Good Friday, day before Easter, day before Jesus rises. It's going to be Arch is rising.
Man. And just before we get on out of here, if there's anybody who comes and checks us out, we just really wanted to go ahead and say that